Sup guys, I'm back for another video. I know it's been a while since I did one. I believe the last one I uploaded was what kind of fan fiction do you read? That was over 2 weeks ago, I think, at this point. And since then, things have just been getting crazy on my other aspects of life. School's getting really tough these days. I had a couple of rough weeks where there were just a bunch of tests, a bunch of examinations and stuff. And last week was just a really terrible week. Some bad results from school. Some things didn't exactly go over well with 2K14, and last week was just a shitty week all around. But now that I've sort of gotten a few opportunities to sort of vet my frustrations into my writing, my writer's block has finally sort of disappeared, and it seems like my recording block, so to speak, has also disappeared. So I'm back with this video. So, as you can tell from the title, this is a review of Annihilation. This is the first in a long series of cosmic events that happened from the mid-2000s all the way to Marvel now, basically kind of soft rebooting things like Guardians of the Galaxy. And now, just to tell you right off the bat, Annihilation is frequently, cited as one of the best cosmic storylines of all time. And, it's just a great big event where all these cosmic characters like Peter Quill, Nova, Drax, Ronan the Accuser, Silver Surfer, all these different cosmic characters from, that little corner of the Marvel Universe, they all basically get involved in this invasion of the Annihilation Wave. The Annihilation Wave is basically this species led by Annihilus. They're basically these mindless creatures and ships who just obey his every will. And certain events happen at the fringe, at the border of our own galaxy, which allows the Annihilation Wave to get here. And basically, the whole gist of the event is these cosmic heroes sort of fighting this onslaught, this unstoppable enemy that just keeps coming at them relentlessly. There's all this sort of different stuff going on. Thanos has his own agenda, Ronan has his own agenda. There's a bunch of different things going on. And the center point of it all is the Annihilation itself. Just this big, almost mindless enemy that just seems to be infinite. And it's basically the Marvel Cosmic Universe being brought down to its very knees, or at least the first time it's brought to its knees. There are a bunch of more crises like this later on, as I said. Now, right off the bat, I want to just tell you, I thought Annihilation was all right. It was good. But if you're not a fan of Marvel Cosmic, if you're not someone who likes and knows a lot about characters like Ronan the Accuser, Silver Surfer, Nova, Super Skrull, Galactus, like I am, for example, you're not going to be able to enjoy this very well. Particularly the stuff with Nova, because Nova, aka Richard Rider, has become sort of a kind of a popular underdog, so to speak, in the Marvel readership, because he started out as this sort of cocky superhero kid, and during these events, spearheaded by the guys like Keith Giffen, Dan Abnett, and Andy Lanning, he basically evolves from just this kind of kid superhero into this kind of military mature leader and kind of a scarred war veteran. And now that's all well and good, and some of that stuff does get to the forefront, especially if you read the prequel, a miniseries, centering about Nova, where you basically just see the entire Nova Corps get slaughtered. You see how Richard meets Drax, and Drax basically transforms him from Nova the kid into Nova the man, the warrior, the war hero, and that kind of stuff, and that's all well and good. But the full effect of that can only really be felt if you're someone who's been reading Richard Rider for years on end, and you were able to experience what he was really like before all these events. And yeah, this event really depends on your knowledge of the various cosmic characters. Now, it's not to say that I don't know about these guys, because for a vast majority of these cosmic heroes or characters, I've all met them in various other media, especially the Fantastic Four animated series. I met Silver Surfer and Galactus in the FF stuff. I met Super Skrull in the 90s show as well, and I met Ronan in that anime-esque Fantastic Four show that they did in the mid-2000s about the same time as this. And while I was able to understand, I understand their general personalities and their sort of general motivation. Those characters really didn't click with me at all while I was watching them on the big screen. You know, I've never really been a big fan of Silver Surfer. I know he does have lots and lots of people who really like him. Personally, I find him very bland, pretty boring. I really didn't care for Super Skrull there, and I really don't care about him here. Ronan does have some interesting things where he basically is kind of a fugitive of the law, and he's called Ronan like Ronan the accused, you know, not Ronan the accuser anymore. And there is some interesting stuff with him, like him trying to gain control of his people after the supreme, you know, intelligence that governs the whole Kree race basically dies, and it falls to Ronan to try and get his people back into shape so that they can help fight off the Annihilation wave. There's this whole thing with the Heralds of Galactus being involved. There's Annihilus working with Thanos in order to find some sort of biological application of the of the power of cosmic, because Annihilus' whole motivation for this is that he wants to become immortal. His whole thing is that he siphons energy from different beings and uses it to make himself more powerful, and his ultimate goal is to make himself the only everlasting being in the universe. You know, everything else is going to die around him, but he's going to be the one thing that survives for eons and eons, and all that stuff is well and good. But I just wasn't really captivated and interested in this as much as I probably should have been, because like I said, if you don't have years upon years of knowledge and of reading these various characters, you're not going to be able to get the full gist of it, and you're really not going to care about Silver Surfer being used as sort of as a lab rat by Thanos. You're not going to care about Thanos torturing Drax's daughter, Moondragon. You're not really going to get why Drax is so invested in killing Thanos. And I do know this stuff. I do know it from reading, you know, the various Wikipedia pages and the Marvel Wiki. But that's not the same thing as reading the storylines themselves. And for an event that is kind of touted as a good entry point for, you know, new people to get into Marvel Cosmic, that is not really the case. In fact, Marvel Cosmic might be one of the hardest things to get into in comic books in general. I tried to read the Guardians of the Galaxy book, which happens post Annihilation Conquest, which is like a sequel to this series, and I really wasn't invested in that. But I will say, the most interesting thing about this book was Peter Quill himself. Because, you know, if you've seen the new Marvel Now version, who basically got New 52'd, don't deny this to me, Peter Quill got New 52'd. He basically got quasi-rebooted, de-aged, and changed up in some other bullshit. And the Peter Quill in Marvel Now, he has fuck all to do with pre-Marvel Now Peter Quill. And pre-Marvel Now Peter Quill is a complete badass in this book. Something happened in his past where he basically he did something very, very morally reprehensible that got him thrown into the most godforsaken prison in the universe, and it basically mentally and emotionally scarred him for life. And the Peter Quill you see here, he's, you know, this kind of damaged dude. You know, he's still kind of sarcastic, and he still kind of has this attitude about him, but he's kind of like this badass who knows a lot of things, you know, that go on in the Marvel Cosmic Universe. He's very knowledgeable. He's kind of like that wandering kind of sage dude who has a pretty bad past, and he's kind of helping like these new guns, you know, help them save the universe and stuff. And I just found him really fascinating. I never really saw Peter Quill this damaged before, never this kind of hardcore. And this does make me wish that the version we see in the movie, in the upcoming Guardians of the Galaxy movie, was kind of like that. Now, if Marvel Studios actually goes in this direction with him, where he does have to do morally reprehensible things, you know, for the greater good, then I actually might consider watching the Guardians of the Galaxy movies just for that. But since it's Marvel Studios, I sincerely doubt they're ever going to do that. But yeah, Peter Quill was easily, you know, the most fascinating thing about the book. You know, I just found him so different from what I usually think of as Peter Quill. And in a lot of ways, he's kind of like the John Constantine, I think, yeah, Constantine of the Marvel Cosmic Universe. You know, he's the guy who's gonna, you know, sacrifice his friends or kill his friends for the greater good, or he's gonna sacrifice, you know, the greater good for his friends. And you know, he has a vast knowledge of the Marvel Cosmic, you know, species, you know, the politics and all that stuff. You know, he's kind of a hardened badass. and he does kind of have that sort of attitude about him. So, for all intents and purposes, he kind of is the Marvel Cosmic version of John Constantine, and that made him easily the most fascinating thing about the book. The rest of it is good, but like I said before, my main problem is that I'm not really invested into these people. Like, I need to go back and read tons and tons of other stuff involving these guys just to get the gist of this. And I don't know if I really want to. Like, I really don't care about Ronan the Accuser. I really don't care about Silver Surfer. I'm kind of invested in Richard Rider, so I might check out his solo book that launches after this. But besides that, I really don't care about these other people. Like, I just don't. I guess the Marvel Cosmic Universe just isn't something that's for me. Maybe it's like every comic book reader has this one character, this one thing that they just cannot latch on to for whatever reason. And I think that Marvel Cosmic is just that for me. Does that make Annihilation bad? No. Annihilation is good. In fact, Annihilation is probably fan-fucking-tastic if you're someone who knows Marvel Cosmic and you're a fan of this whole aspect of the Marvel Universe. If you know that stuff, you're gonna love Annihilation. It is the whole package. It is this big event with all these heroes involved in it. Every character feels like he has a purpose, and seeing how some people, evolve and change based on the events of the storyline, it's just all kind of great stuff. If you're someone like me who's not really into Marvel Cosmic and you think this is kind of a good entry point for it, it's really, really not. Like, if you're someone who kind of likes Silver Surfer, Super Skrull, Ronan the Accuser, or Nova, based on some of the other material you've seen them in, and then this is probably going to be more enjoyable for you than for me. But like I said, I really don't care about most of these characters, and so I wasn't particularly invested in what was happening to them and the things that were happening around them. So yeah, so that my lack of knowledge and lack of kind of giving a shit about these people just sort of lessened the full impact this storyline could have had on me. And as for the art, the interior art itself is fine. I mean, it's not great by any stretch of the imagination, but it does do a serviceable job. And there are genuinely several panels where I was just like, holy shit, that looks pretty damn good. But this event has something I fucking despise. I really, really hate it when, the thing where a book has epic covers, where the covers just look epic as all hell. They just look fantastic, and they just make your jaw hit the floor. Yeah, and the interior art is nothing like that. Yeah, this is one of those books. I mean, the covers for Annihilation are fucking fantastic. They look amazing, and they really get you sort of hyped up for this kind of big, action thing, this whole alien invasion where all these guys are getting together. And then the interior art is nothing like the covers. It's really, really distracting, and it's really sad that they couldn't have gotten at least someone who kind of looks like Delato to do the interior artwork. It's just really distracting. When you open the book up, you see this epic cover and stuff. It just looks fantastic, and then you read the interior, and then you see the interior artwork, and it looks nothing like it. It's really distracting, and I really hate it when books do this. It gets on my fucking nerves. Like, why can't you just get one good artist to do the covers and the interior artwork? Like, look at David Finch on Forever Evil. He has done the entire event. To my knowledge, he has no backup artists or at all. He draws the covers and the interior artwork, and he's drawing the entire series, completely from issue 1 to issue 7. Like, why the fuck can't other events do this? Like, seriously, why the fuck not?